You're listening to the Love Your Neighbor podcast.
Folks, welcome to the Links podcast. My name is John, and so excited to be here. I love doing this. I love being able to just share with people from Brandon, and this is made possible by Brandon Wellness. Brandon Wellness is building and investing in the community and the health and wellness of Brandon. And so when I think of health and wellness and Brandon, when I think of the two, the first person that comes to my mind is Brian McGuire. So today, Brian McGuire is going to be joining us on the Links Love Your Neighbor podcast. And hi, Brian.
Hey, John. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, it's great to see you.
Yeah. This is like we're having lunch, but with headphones and microphones. And
yeah. It's probably a little less fun, but it's better for you.
Right.
Yeah. Well, hey, Brian, so now there may be, maybe a few dozen people in Brandon that don't know you and your family. So just give everybody a little bit of background kind of on you and your family, how you got to Brandon. And then we can kind of unpack and go from there, but
sure.
Share with everybody.
All right. So I grew up, East Side, Sioux Falls, East 26th Street. Just a few blocks east of Bonson. So you went to high school, went to Washington High School, Patrick Henry Middle School. Ended up at USF later down the road. Met my wife, Cody, who most people probably know her more than me. But
you said it.
Yep, there you go, yep. So we got married in 2005. Originally lived in Harrisburg. Cody, my wife, moved to Brandon probably in the 7th, 8th grade. So she's kind of a resident there. Lived in Harrisburg for a little bit. Cody got a job teaching in Brandon after working at the Children's Home Society. And we just felt that draw to come back, that pull. Cody's family was from Brandon. It made just one of us driving into Sioux Falls to work. That was me. Right. And but we've been there since it's been almost 14 years now since she came back. And two kids, Logan and Madden, 13 and 10, and 2 girls. We're running to sporting events, and Cody's coaching volleyball, and we're on the run, man.
Yeah. And you've kind of, I'm going to go ahead and stick up for Cody here. I mean, you are married to a Hall of Famer.
That's true. Yes. Yep.
Of course you are, it's interesting. You're a soon to be, if not already. Are you in the South Dakota Baseball Hall of Fame?
No. I'm just recently retired.
Okay. So you have to do the gap.
I don't know how it works. Yeah.
Well, you've
we'll see what happens.
You very expertly kind of went around your baseball career. How many years did you play for the Monarchs after USF?
So I played. I can start. I played at Iowa Central Community College, a very good JUCO in Fort Dodge, Iowa. From there, I went to Missouri Southern in Joplin, Missouri. Spent more time having surgery there than actually playing. Had 2 shoulder surgeries, and came back to USF because of my relationship with the head coach there from the Renner Monarchs, which I played for 21 years. Wow. Yeah.
For those people that don't, I mean, I'm somewhat aware, but help people understand what the Monarchs program, obviously the legacy, and it's been a tradition there. Talk a little bit about that for people that don't know that.
Sure. It's an amateur baseball team. Amateur baseball here in South Dakota is a fairly big deal. People pay attention to it. Every small town has a team. For the most part, it's just summer baseball. It's mostly made up of guys who played in high school, played in college, and wanted to continue. And, yeah.
The boys of summer.
Yeah.
And
but Renner, we played in Renner just outside Sioux Falls, which has a historic baseball program, been around since the early 1900s. Oh. A lot of history, which makes it great. There's the Monarch Steakhouse and Lounge, which is 20 feet from the field. There's a nice little as you enter the building. There's a lot of history, a lot of pictures, a lot of old newspapers, a lot of old uniforms. All the tabletops are covered in pictures and historical things, and it's very, very, very unique. Yeah.
I've been to a couple games, and it's just a neat atmosphere. I mean, you talk about that. I envision amateur baseball in South Dakota in some ways probably hasn't changed much in the last 100 years.
Correct. Yeah. And there are a ton of towns throughout the state that are very similar to Renner. Their baseball history. It's just a very unique, very cool setting here. And Minnesota has very similar. For anyone who's from Minnesota knows all about town ball. And
okay.
Yeah.
So other than Renner, obviously Renner's close, probably one of the most significant for us. What are some other communities that people might be familiar, smaller communities, maybe even like Brandon, that have baseball where it's a community event?
Sure.
What are some of the ones you love to go play?
Sure. I spent the last 2 years playing for the Flandreau Cardinals. Very similar atmosphere. Canova Gang. Alexandria Angels. Anywhere from here between here and Mitchell, Parkston. It's almost every little town that you can pass on the way. It's
cool.
Yep.
So you playing baseball, obviously a love of yours. That's awesome. I love history, and anybody that's looking for. I mean, you guys play. I mean, are your games during the weekends? I mean, when do you guys play, or when does amateur baseball happen?
It's usually 2 to 3 times a week. Our schedule, we kind of kept it to a Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, and as we got older, maybe just a Thursday, Sunday. Our schedule seemed to go down as our age went up, which was good. But yeah,
how many state championships did you win in your years with the Monarchs?
I won. We won 12.
12.
Yeah, and we lost 6 state championships. So we got second 6 times, won 12.
Whoa.
A lot of fun, a lot of good memories. Even televised probably 3 or 4 of those games, which is crazy that anyone would want to watch that.
Who would you say, like, if you had to tell stories, you and the boys are telling stories, I mean, who's the toughest pitcher you ever faced? Like where you got up the plate and you were like, oh boy. I'm a left-handed hitter, so a lot of them were left-handed, which made it a little tougher, but there's a really good one now, playing for Del Rapids. Chris Regis, who's a former teammate of mine too. He's tough. He's got a teammate too that is really good. They made it easy for me to retire. Having to see those guys a couple times a year. Yeah. Let the young guys handle them. So sure.
Yeah.
Well, the Henry kid from Del Rapids that's at Wichita State.
Correct, right? Yeah. Yep.
I heard that he's just got unbelievable, like, everything's metrics now, like spin rates and all that stuff.
Yep.
I heard that he's like one of the number 1 arms in the country.
Yep. His dad's a friend of mine. He was sharing some of that stuff with me, and some of the metrics that you're talking about here ranked up there with guys in the big leagues for sure. Yeah. And he had his elbow surgery, so he's recovering from that. But it'll be interesting to see what he can do. I know he's got good genetics. Both of his parents were phenomenal athletes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah.
That's Logan and Madden. See, they got great genetics.
Right. Yeah.
You and Cody.
Yeah. Something like that.
Double Hall of Famer. That doesn't happen very often. So
well, it hasn't happened. It's not. That's not a thing, John. That hasn't happened yet.
We're gonna have you back here next summer when you make it. So if you're not, I'm gonna protest.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna picket.
All right. Yeah.
Where is it in Chamberlain?
It is in Lake Norden.
Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna picket get a pitchforks and torches and go up there. And Brian McGuire for Hall of Fame. Well, anyway, tell us a little bit about Brandon. What is it that you love about Brandon? Talk a little bit about the community. You seem to know a lot of folks in Brandon. pretty connected that way. What do you love about Brandon?
Well, for sure, the people. That's an easy one. We hear it all the time on this show. The best way to describe it, we have so many friends who grew up in Brandon, kind of like my wife, who left for college, no matter how far they went, and have come back. They come right back home. This is where I want to raise my family. This is where I want my kids to go to school. That to me says a lot. Even growing up on East Sioux Falls, I had no idea where I was going to high school until I was, in 7th grade probably, because the borders kept changing. I lived closer to Lincoln, actually, but the boundaries changed. Then ended up going to Washington, which was fantastic. I'm glad it ended up that way. But my kids have known they're wearing Link shirts since the day they were born. You know what I mean? To me, that's special. The small town ish. It's not too small. Right. But it's certainly not too big, and you're close enough if you need to go to Sioux Falls or whatever. But definitely the people, the relationships that we've built. With Cody being a teacher, we're plugged in immediately, and It's been a huge blessing for us and our kids.
That's good. I appreciate you and appreciate the fact that you've made Brandon your home, and you're involved. You guys are involved in a lot of stuff, and so I appreciate that. What would you say to somebody that's new to Brandon, maybe that doesn't have that same pedigree? Because that's, if there is a knock on the community of Brandon, you've heard this. If there is a knock, it's hard to plug in if you're a new person.
Sure.
So you've been an insider now for a while, but you're also, you're married to an insider. What would you say to somebody that's just moved here and maybe doesn't have that vast network of relationships? That's maybe just going, hey, I thought this was a small town. It feels like kind of lonely sometimes. What would be your encouragement to somebody who's in that position or new to town?
Sure. Get out and about. Get plugged in, talk to people. This show is, if you go back through how many there have been, it's a great way. The people on here can tell a lot better than I can, what to do, the sporting events, that's big in Brandon. But even if you're not into sports, there are multiple other ways. But I would say listen to this show for sure. Yeah. Hey, guys like Bob Logan and Jim Heinet's on here, and that's Matt Christensen. I know he's not he didn't grow up in Brandon, but man, that guy's a walking encyclopedia.
True. True. Yeah, there's that's great advice. I think getting out there, and the reason we do this podcast, for those of you that are new, the reason we do it is because we all got stuff going on, and I appreciate you sharing. Just on the way into work, you just pop in an episode, and you get to hear from somebody in the community, and that's why we started this podcast, was to build community and begin conversations, because it's hard to get to know people, and so these are kind of like little jump starts to conversations, and you see somebody, oh, hey, I saw you, and that's why we do a video too, and because we want to create those connections. One of the ways that we're really focused on too, as an organization, Brandon Wellness, is to build a wellness center in Brandon. The city is a great partner, right next to Aspen Park, and so I've talked, with many people about this, but what would be your feeling about if we had a wellness center with turf, hard courts, fitness, classrooms, birthday parties, indoor, outdoor? What do you think that could do to build community in Brandon?
Well, I think that's exactly what it would do. Just think of the people you bump into there. I can only imagine the events that would be going on, and the options, and you talk about a new person. What a great way just to, just to get plugged in. That's what that would do. It'd be great. Yeah, it'd be absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I think having kids that you guys travel a little bit for volleyball and basketball and softball, and I think that'd be really awesome. For folks like yourself who are traveling out of town for tournaments, to have a number of tournaments here in town.
Oh yeah.
That'd be great.
Yes. Yeah, we were in the Minneapolis area yesterday. It could have easily had that tournament right in Brandon.
A lot of local folks out there.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, Brian, I appreciate you being on here. Is there anything else you feel like you need to say? Any corrections? I'm kind of guessing you're like one of our biggest fans in the Links podcast. So
absolutely.
Any corrections or?
Well, I don't know how many family members you have. My cousin Izzy Stone was on this show. Mm-hmm. Another way we were talking about, just because we're into sports doesn't mean everyone has to be, but she's, an actress and a singer and into theater, and she got all the talent in the family as far as I'm concerned. But
she's at Augie, right?
She's at Augie now. Yeah.
Oh, she's awesome. If you haven't seen the Izzy Stone interview, I love interviewing students. We got a few students on this season, and I just love talking to students. Yeah. She's, my goodness.
Yeah.
She's pretty cool. I can tell. Well, it doesn't surprise me that you're related. Yeah. I can tell.
Right. Yeah. I'm not.
But all right, Brian. Well, hey, thanks a lot so much, and appreciate you, man. Have a great day, and thank you for joining us on the Links podcast. And please like and share this podcast. We're on YouTube, we're on Google, we're on iTunes, we're on all those different platforms, including Facebook. But go ahead and share that with your friends, and hey, Brian, hashtag Brian McGuire for Hall of Fame. Feel a little insecure about being the only one that's so thanks for joining us. Have a great day.
Thanks, John.
Thank you for joining us on the Love Your Neighbor podcast. The purpose of the Love Your Neighbor podcast is to build community one conversation at a time. You can help us build that community by sharing the podcast on your social media channels and rating our podcast on whatever platform you're listening from. Another way is to let us know of any neighbors who have a story. Go Links!